You sit down to work, and within 3 minutes, your brain is replaying a past conversation, stressing over an email, and anticipating a distant deadline. This mental fatigue originates in your biology's attempt to process an overwhelming environment. When your attention drifts away from the task in front of you, your brain boots up a specific circuit called the default mode network. This is the brain's imagination and mind-wandering center, designed to simulate future scenarios and reflect on the past. This network is highly active. Left uninterrupted, it burns through cognitive resources. A wandering mind easily latches on to unresolved problems, creating a self-sustaining feedback loop where hypothetical worries generate physical stress, which then triggers more scenarios to explain that stress. We often treat a lack of focus or high anxiety as a personal failing. In reality, an overactive default mode network is simply dominating the brain's energy supply, leaving no resources for present moment execution. For decades, neuroscientists have studied this exact problem using a tool called the Psychomotor Vigilance Task, or PVT-B. It is a controlled attention test where a participant presses a button in response to a visual trigger. The historical purpose of this test was strictly observational. Researchers used it to gather data on the executive network, the part of the brain responsible for sustained focus, to see exactly how focus fails under pressure. But the standard PVT-B has limits. It tallies up total attention lapses and records the slowing reaction time. It functions as a cognitive thermometer, telling you the brain is fatigued without doing anything to lower the temperature. Eventually, researchers asked a practical question. Could a tool designed to measure a focus lapse be altered to cure the distraction itself? Simply proving that a pilot or a surgeon is losing their focus doesn't solve the underlying problem. To address the attention crisis, cognitive science needed to transition from recording data to actively intervening in the brain's mechanics. Creating that intervention requires a third distinct circuit in the brain's architecture, the salience network. This diagram shows the salience network as a central diamond. It operates as the brain's mechanical mediator, sitting between the imagination center and the task focus center. Its entire job is to function as a toggle switch. When working efficiently, it rocks the brain's resources away from the default mode network's daydreaming and channels that energy into the executive network to perform a task. Here is where the clinical test becomes a solution. If you intentionally monitor your inner dialogue while taking the PVT-B, asking yourself, "Are my thoughts on task?" you force this toggle switch to activate. The simple internal action of asking yourself if you are paying attention alters the brain's mechanical state. It forces the salience network to take control and stabilize the system. This transforms the exercise. The timer on the screen functions as the meditative anchor for a process called focused attention meditation. The process relies on interoceptive metacognition, the act of observing your own thoughts. You sit back mentally and watch your mind drift toward a distraction without getting absorbed in the content of that distraction. Once you notice the mind wandering, you execute the restoration phase. You manually and intentionally drag your focus away from the random thought and lock it back onto the visual anchor of the test. Every single time you run through this 3-step cycle, anchoring to the task, noticing the wandering mind, and actively restoring focus, you are forcing the salience network to engage. It operates as a biological push-up for your brain's toggling mechanism. By adding self-awareness, the PVT-B functions as a heavy, repeatable weight training exercise for attention control. When you perform this specific workout over time, the physical strength of the salience network increases, producing immediate systemic results. This chart shows transition latency, the time it takes your brain to switch states. As the salience network gets stronger, that latency drops. The transition between resting and working becomes smoother and faster. This seamless toggling ability defines psychological health. It ensures the brain can allocate resources exactly where they are needed without getting stuck in a specific circuit. When the brain can transition without friction, you can easily access a state of flow, the zone where complex tasks feel effortless because your focus is entirely occupied by the present moment. Strengthening the salience network allows you to shut off the imagination center on command. This results in a rapid, measurable drop in baseline anxiety as you spend less time trapped in hypothetical worries. The stakes of this training extend to individuals operating in high-stress environments, first responders, military personnel, and surgeons, where the ability to switch mental states is a matter of survival. We traditionally viewed attention as a fixed trait. We now see it as dynamic mental flexibility, the physical capacity to move the mind away from intrusive or overwhelming thoughts and back to the task at hand. Strengthening the salience network creates a buffer against trauma. By training the brain to toggle away from the loops of the imagination center, a person can prevent traumatic memories from becoming permanent, unchecked cycles in the mind, directly mitigating the risk of developing PTSD. Interoceptive monitoring turns a passive experience of the world into an active one. By learning to watch your own thoughts and manually control the switch, you gain mastery over your own internal dialogue. You are not at the mercy of your own imagination. The ability to protect your focus and lower your stress is a mechanical skill that can be built, trained, and perfected.